You know, every time you tap your card or click Buy Now, you're a little piece of a huge global story. And today, we're going to look at the company right at the heart of it all, Visa. Their CFO just laid out all their latest numbers, how they performed and what they see coming. So what does this all really tell us? Not just about Visa, but about the economy as a whole. Let's break it down.
All right, so Visa just wrapped up their 2025 fiscal year. The big question, of course, is how'd they do? Well, the top-line numbers paint a pretty clear picture of some seriously impressive and, more importantly, stable growth. Let's look at the three key figures that really tell the story.
First up, their full-year net revenue. It jumped by a super healthy 11%. I mean, to put that in perspective, we're talking about a business that brought in around $40 billion. That kind of growth tells you their main payments business is just absolutely humming. But, it's not just about the cash coming in the door. Check this out. Their earnings per share, or EPS, that shot up 14%. And this is a huge deal, because it means they're not just growing revenue, they're getting more efficient, more profitable with every single dollar they make.
And get this, they didn't just limp across the finish line. Nope. In their final quarter, their net revenue growth actually sped up to 12%. That's the kind of strong finish, that momentum that really gets people excited and sets a powerful tone for the year ahead. So, look, double-digit growth is fantastic, right? But that's not the full story. The really interesting part, the part that explains why they're doing so well, is what's happening under the hood. There are two specific areas of Visa's business that are growing at a wild pace, way faster than everything else. These are their growth engines.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. In the fourth quarter, their value-added services revenue, it just exploded by 25%. 25. And at the same time, their commercial and money movement business grew by a really strong 14%. Now, compare that to the company's overall growth of 12%, and you see it right there. These engines aren't just running, they're in total overdrive.
Okay, so what are these things? Well, value-added services are stuff like fraud prevention, consulting, and other solutions that Visa sells to banks and partners. Think of it like the software and the brains that run on top of the payment rails. And then commercial and money movement. That's all about business payments, things like virtual cards for corporate travel, or Visa Direct, which lets businesses pay people out super fast. All right, let's switch gears and look at the foundation of Visa's whole business. How are people actually spending their money? This is like taking a real-time pulse on the health of the global consumer, and the trends are pretty fascinating.
Despite all the chatter about a slowdown, the U.S. consumer has been incredibly resilient. Payments volume was up a solid 8% in the last quarter. And what's really interesting is that the growth was exactly the same for both credit and debit. That means people aren't just racking up debt, they're spending their own money too, which is a real sign of confidence.
Now, let's zoom out to the rest of the world. Cross-border spending is a massive profit driver for Visa, and we're seeing two really powerful trends here. First, online shopping across borders is still on a tear, up 13%. And at the same time, the travel recovery is still going strong with a 10% jump. That post-pandemic urge to travel? Oh yeah, it is definitely still a thing.
And to really hammer this point home, e-commerce now makes up about 40% of Visa's entire cross-border volume. So here's the key takeaway. While travel gets all the headlines, it's the steady, powerful growth of you and me shopping online from stores in other countries that has become a huge part of Visa's international business.
Okay, so that's the story of 2025. But what about what's coming next? The CFO also laid out the company's official game plan for the new fiscal year, 2026. And this is where we get to see just how confident they're feeling based on all these trends.
First things first, the big assumption. Their entire forecast is built on one simple idea, that the economy basically stays as it is and that consumer spending doesn't just fall off a cliff. This is super important context for what comes next. They're not banking on a huge boom, but they're not predicting a big downturn either. Just steady as she goes. So, with that stable outlook in mind, their forecast is amazingly consistent. As you can see, they're calling for low double-digit growth. So think somewhere in that 10 to 13% range across the board. For revenue, for their own expenses, and for profit. The big message here is balance. They're planning to keep investing in the business while delivering those strong returns everyone expects.
So after giving that full-year picture, the CFO then zoomed in on what's happening right now, giving a forecast for the first quarter of their new year. And this, of course, includes that all-important holiday shopping season.
And they came with receipts. They shared some really fresh data from October. U.S. payments volume is still growing at 7%. Cross-border is up a strong 12%, and the number of transactions they're processing is up 9%.
What this shows us is that the positive momentum from last year is just rolling right into the new one. So for this first quarter, here's the crucial point. Visa expects their net revenue growth to be at the high end of that low double-digit range. This tells us they're expecting a really strong start to the year, probably getting a boost from things like pricing changes and just that continued stable spending from consumers.
And finally, the bottom line. For Q1, they're forecasting profit growth, their adjusted EPS, to be in the low teens. Now that means something like 13 to 15%. It's a really confident number that signals they feel like they're coming out of the gate strong in the new fiscal year.
So what we've seen is this story of incredible resilience, powered by these supercharged growth engines and steady spending, all leading to a really confident forecast. But it leaves us with one final thought. With all the uncertainty out there in the world, how exactly will Visa navigate this complex global economy to make these big promises a reality? Well, that is going to be the story to watch in 2026.